You can feel it long before you ever see the store closing sign taped to the glass. It starts with the parking lot, once packed on Saturday mornings, now a vast, gray slab of empty concrete with weeds pushing through the cracks. It is in the aisles that used to be overflowing with merchandise, now thinned out, disorganized, and quiet. You think America's biggest retail chains are too enormous, too iconic, and too familiar to ever truly fall? Think again. Because beneath the surface of daily life, a quiet retail apocalypse is unfolding, one closure at a time. This isn't just about profit margins or quarterly earnings calls. This is about the shrinking middle class, the suffocating cost of living, and the terrifying realization that everyday America is becoming harder to afford. From runaway inflation to organized retail theft costing the industry billions, the forces squeezing these companies are the same ones squeezing your wallet. We are witnessing a structural shift, a meltdown of the commercial landscape that has defined this country for 50 years. The brands that fed us, clothed us, and employed our neighbors are quietly preparing to vanish from our cities and small towns. By the time we reach 2026, the map of American retail will look unrecognizable. The soft landing economists promised has turned into a hard reality for legacy brands that simply cannot adapt to the new cost of survival. This video isn't just about business, it's about the death of the American neighborhood. It is about the silent crisis erasing the places where we made memories. Stay with us, because understanding this collapse is the first step to surviving the economic winter that is coming. By the time we reach number 1, you will understand why 2026 marks the end of an era. Scene, the countdown begins. Number 10, Boston Market. For decades, Boston Market was the quiet sanctuary of America's budget-minded households. Do you remember the smell? The moment you walked in, you were hit with the scent of rotisserie chicken spinning in the window, warm cornbread, and mac and cheese. It was the no-stress Sunday meal for working families who didn't have the time to cook but wanted something that felt like home. It wasn't just fast food, it was a bridge between the drive-thru and the dining room. But as we look toward 2026, that warm comfort has turned into one of the industry's clearest warning signs. What was once a dependable fast casual favorite is now a chain fighting simply to stay alive. The collapse didn't happen overnight, but the acceleration has been brutal. Boston Market has spent the past few years tangled in a web of lawsuits, unpaid wages, and unpaid supplier bills. In New Jersey, state officials temporarily shut down multiple restaurants after workers reported going months without pay, a shocking betrayal of the very people keeping the lights on. One of the company's largest suppliers even won a multi-million-dollar judgment over unpaid invoices, evidence of a system running on fumes. Across the country, dozens of locations now sit dark with temporarily closed signs that haven't changed in over a year. The rotisseries have stopped spinning. The dining rooms are locked. The real tragedy is what those closures represent. In many suburbs and small towns, Boston Market wasn't just another storefront. It was a place families leaned on when time was tight and budgets were thin. But the chain's supply disruptions, management shakeups, and mounting debts have pushed franchise owners to walk away. The exact number of recent closures is data that is hard to pin down because it changes weekly, yet the pattern is unmistakable: the brand is shrinking fast. As one former employee noted on social media, "We didn't just run out of chicken, we ran out of time." The nostalgia of the home-cooked meal is being replaced by the cold reality of bankruptcy. Number 9, Dairy Queen. For generations, Dairy Queen wasn't just a restaurant. It was a ritual. It was the after-school dipped cone, the birthday blizzard, the small-town hangout that marked the official start of summer. In rural America, the DQ sign was often the brightest light on Main Street. It represented a simpler time, where a few dollars could buy a treat that erased a bad day. But in 2026, that sweet nostalgia is melting under economic pressure that even ice cream can't cool down. The clearest signs of trouble appeared in Texas, where one of the chain's franchise groups abruptly shut down more than 24 locations. Soon after, another cluster of stores in Indiana lost their franchise rights entirely after failing to meet costly remodel requirements. Altogether, nearly 40 Dairy Queen restaurants vanished in a matter of months, leaving behind empty buildings and confusion among loyal customers. And though this wave was tied to specific franchise groups, it exposed a deeper truth: many operators simply can't keep up with rising costs. Inflation hasn't spared dessert. Soft-serve ingredients, sugar, dairy, packaging, and utilities have all become significantly more expensive. A medium blizzard that once felt comfortably priced now hits a level many families label as an occasional treat rather than an everyday stop. At the same time, corporate modernization demands are crushing small owners. New digital boards and updated interiors carry six-figure price tags that smaller towns simply can't absorb. The result is a shrinking footprint in the very rural communities that define the brand. Customer experience is slipping, too. Shoppers report shorter hours, thinner staffing, and longer waits. The magic is still there, but it's harder to find and harder to afford. As one resident in a town that lost its DQ said, "It feels like summer got cancelled." The red spoon is fading, victim to an economy where joy has become too expensive. Number 8. Best Buy. There was a time when walking into a Best Buy felt like stepping into the future. Do you remember the energy? Rows of glowing laptops, the deep thump of demo speakers, and walls of brand new televisions lighting up the aisles. This was where Americans went to touch tomorrow. Families tested gadgets together on weekends, teenagers saved up all summer for their first pair of high-end headphones, and for many, the blue shirt employees were the trusted guides to the digital age. But by 2026, that familiar blue and yellow world is dimming. While Best Buy is not collapsing outright, it is shrinking in ways that reveal a deeper, more painful shift in how we live. The data confirms a quiet retreat. Since 2020, the company has shuttered dozens of locations, including 24 stores in fiscal 2024, with plans to close another 10 to 15 stores through fiscal 2025. On paper, these numbers might look like standard corporate restructuring. In reality, they represent the death of in-person tech retail. The challenge isn't a lack of interest in technology. Americans are more addicted to screens than ever. The problem is the process. Best Buy has fallen victim to showrooming. Most shoppers now browse the physical aisles to touch the product, only to pull out their phones and order it from Amazon, where the price is lower, delivery is faster, and the checkout line doesn't exist. Meanwhile, the rent for these massive tech showrooms in urban centers has reached sky-high levels. Add in surging insurance, utilities, and wages, and the economics simply break down. For older customers, this shift feels personal and isolating. Many say they hate buying electronics online. They want to hear someone explain the difference between products, to ask real questions to a human being. But with fewer specialists on the floor and fewer stores overall, that experience is evaporating. Walking into a remaining store today often feels eerie. A showroom without enough staff doesn't inspire confidence, it simply feels abandoned. As Best Buy leans heavily into automation and smaller formats, one truth becomes clear: when even technology retailers struggle to justify physical space, the impact ripples far beyond electronics. It signals that our public gathering spaces are being replaced by digital isolation. Number 7. 7-Eleven. For decades, the neon orange and green glow of a 7-Eleven sign meant one thing: certainty. No matter the hour, no matter the neighborhood, convenience was always within reach. It was the comfort stop for night shift workers, the lifeline for last-minute medicine, and the only place open when the rest of the city slept. It was a beacon of the 24-hour American lifestyle, a promise that the lights would never go out. But as we head into 2026, that once bright symbol is dimming quietly, steadily, and in the places where it matters most. The parent company, 7&I Holdings, announced it would close roughly 444 stores across North America, marking one of the largest convenience store retrenchments in recent memory. The reasons behind this retreat paint a disturbing picture of the new American reality. It is a perfect storm of rising operating costs and surging insurance premiums, but the dark undercurrent driving this collapse is crime. Crime levels in many urban areas have made 24-hour operations harder, riskier, and infinitely more expensive to maintain. Some franchises report shoplifting occurring dozens of times a week, eating away at razor-thin margins. Others say they simply can't find employees willing to work the overnight shift anymore. The risk is too high for the pay. In several cities, the fallout is visible. Stores are reducing hours, shutting down at midnight for the first time in decades. Steel gates appear over windows that used to stay open around the clock. Card machines sit behind plastic shields. In neighborhoods that relied on 7-Eleven for late-night essentials, medicine, baby formula, a gallon of milk, the closures feel like more than a business decision. They feel like a retreat. What many people don't realize is that the modern American lifestyle was built around the assumption that convenience is limitless. But when the economics of staying open no longer make sense, that model begins to break. Electricity, staffing, insurance, and security now outpace the profit from midnight coffee and early morning snacks. For seniors, night workers, and low-income families, losing a store like 7-Eleven is destabilizing. The lights that once promised safety now flicker with uncertainty. Number 6, Walgreens. Walgreens was once the heartbeat of countless American neighborhoods. It was more than a store, it was a utility. It was the place you stopped for a prescription refill, grabbed a few essentials on the way home, or picked up cold medicine late at night. In many rural towns, the local Walgreens was the closest thing to dependable healthcare within miles. It represented a promise that help was always just around the corner. But by 2026, that sense of reliability is slipping away, replaced by a healthcare desert crisis. In late 2024, Walgreens announced one of the largest pharmacy retrenchments in U.S. history. Around 1,200 stores will close over a 3-year period, wiping out roughly 14% of its nationwide footprint. About 500 locations are expected to shut down in 2025 alone. For a chain with over 8,700 stores, the message is clear: the old pharmacy model is broken. The pressures are piling up from every direction. Rent and insurance costs continue to rise, while pharmacy wages have climbed sharply due to staffing shortages across the healthcare system. But there is a darker factor at play: theft. Once a minor inconvenience, organized retail crime has grown into a financial threat that corporations can no longer ignore. In many remaining stores, shelves sit behind plexiglass or entire aisles are locked, turning quick errands into frustrating waits for staff assistance. Ironically, these security measures push customers away, shrinking the very sales the company needs to stay afloat. The human impact of this retreat is immediate and dangerous. In parts of Arizona, Ohio, and the rural South, seniors now face drives of 20 miles or more just to get their prescriptions. One 69-year-old customer captured the despair perfectly: "I don't know how to order medicine online. I just want to talk to a pharmacist." That small sentence captures a bigger truth. For millions of Americans, a pharmacy isn't just a retail transaction, it is the last physical place where care still feels personal. Walgreens calls these closures a strategic reset, but for the communities losing their only nearby pharmacy, it feels like an abandonment. Number 5, Macy's. For generations, Macy's was not just a department store, it was an experience. It was the anchor of the American mall and the center of the holiday spirit. The sparkling holiday displays, the wooden escalators gliding past endless racks of clothing, the iconic red star glowing above city streets, families made memories here. Teenagers bought their first suits here. For many Americans, Macy's wasn't just a place to shop, it was a ritual stitched into the fabric of growing up. But by 2026, that tradition is fading like the last lights of a long holiday season. The company has announced a sweeping restructuring plan that is reshaping the retail landscape entirely. Over 150 underperforming locations are scheduled to close within 3 years, including 66 stores shutting down in 2025 alone. This isn't a minor trim, it is a full-scale retreat from entire regions, suburbs, and downtown districts where Macy's once stood as a cultural pillar. Inside the stores that remain open, the decline is visible and depressing. Shoppers report wide aisles with sparse merchandise, clearance racks multiplying across floors, and lighting that once felt warm now feeling tired and dim. Employees describe the mood as quiet, like a museum. Some have spoken about the emotional weight of lowering the Macy's sign for the last time. It felt like America was losing a piece of itself. The reasons for the decline are familiar but powerful. Online shopping has redefined convenience, while rising rent and labor costs push these massive department stores into impossible territory. But the biggest driver is the vanishing middle class. Consumers who once visited Macy's weekly now think twice about every discretionary purchase. Even the iconic holiday rush can no longer guarantee the crowds it once drew. As Macy's transforms, some former locations are being converted into apartments, offices, or fulfillment centers. It is a sign of the times. What once symbolized aspiration is now being repurposed for mere practicality. Number 4, Subway. For years, Subway was the unofficial lunchroom of America. It was inescapable. The smell of freshly baked bread, the clatter of toppings behind the glass counter, the familiar question, "What can I get for you today?" It was the kind of everyday comfort millions of Americans didn't think twice about. At its peak, Subway had more locations than McDonald's, Starbucks, and Taco Bell combined. There were towns where a Subway outnumbered gas stations and schools. It was fast, predictable, and everywhere. But as we enter 2026, that once unstoppable sandwich empire is shrinking at a pace few expected. The decline has been nothing short of a meltdown. In 2024 alone, Subway closed more than 600 U.S. locations, pushing its national footprint below 20,000 stores for the first time in decades. Compared with its peak in the mid-2010s, the chain has now lost over 7,600 locations. This is a stunning reversal for what was once the world's largest restaurant brand. The causes run deeper than simple competition. It is a crisis of identity and economics. Customers complain that the quality isn't what it used to be: bread that feels less fresh, vegetables that don't look as crisp, and employees too burned out to care. Overexpansion left many shops cannibalizing each other, competing for the same dollar and forcing franchise owners into razor-thin margins. Meanwhile, American tastes have shifted. People want food that feels real, local, and crafted, not a formula repeated thousands of times a day. Yet, the most striking change isn't on the menu, it's in the mood. Many longtime customers say the experience has become cold and impersonal. As one viewer wrote, "Subway used to feel warm. Now it just feels tired." That sentiment echoes across thousands of struggling stores: less joy, less care, less connection. The value proposition has also collapsed. Classic footlongs that once hovered around $5 now push $10 or more after tax and fees, especially in large cities. That shift has eroded the very value perception that built Subway's dominance. Operational strain adds more pressure, with high turnover and uneven franchise support making it hard to regain footing. Subway's massive footprint, once its greatest strength, has become a financial anchor in the era of the retail apocalypse. Number 3, Burger King. Burger King was once the confident underdog of the American fast food landscape, the chain that dared to challenge McDonald's with flame-grilled swagger and the famous promise to have it your way. It wasn't just a burger joint, it was a cultural staple with an attitude. From the paper crowns on kids' heads to the late-night drive-thru runs, Burger King felt permanent. But in 2026, the second biggest burger empire in the country is facing one of the most turbulent chapters in its history. The trouble has been building for years, but now the dam is breaking. Multiple major franchise groups, the operators who actually run the restaurants, have filed for bankruptcy, leading to waves of sudden store closures across states like Ohio, Michigan, and Florida. Corporate leadership has already confirmed plans to shut down up to 400 underperforming locations, a massive stabilization effort that signals just how strained the system has become. For many franchises, the math simply no longer works. Rising rents, skyrocketing beef prices, and labor costs have pushed profit margins to the absolute edge. Customers feel the difference, too. The once affordable Whopper combo, famously priced around $6 not long ago, now edges into double digits in many regions. Diners report smaller portions, inconsistent quality, and slower service, especially in older restaurants that haven't been remodeled in decades. While McDonald's modernizes and Wendy's leans into digital upgrades, Burger King struggles with a patchwork of aging dining rooms and dim lighting that projects a company stuck in time. As lower-income traffic thins out and the value menu becomes a relic of the past, Burger King is losing its grip on the very customers who built it. In many communities, the king has effectively abdicated the throne, leaving behind empty buildings as a reminder of a fast food era that is rapidly disappearing. Number 2, Dollar General. If there was one retailer that seemed recession-proof, it was Dollar General. For more than a decade, this company was the safety net of America's working class, a place where $5 could still buy dinner, cleaning supplies, and a little peace of mind. It expanded relentlessly, opening stores in rural towns, back roads, and neglected neighborhoods that bigger retailers ignored, promising that affordability was always within reach. But by 2026, the chain built on low prices is discovering a painful paradox. When the cost of living crushes your customers, even cheap stops working. Early in the year, Dollar General announced it would close roughly 140 locations, including its newer pop-shelf concept stores. Executives have quietly acknowledged something even more alarming: shoppers are coming in less often, spending less when they do come, and avoiding discretionary items almost entirely. A store once filled with cheap household goods and fun impulse buys now sees customers walking out with only the bare minimum: bread, soap, a box of cereal, and only if the price hasn't jumped since last week. The core customer Dollar General relied on, lower-income households, has been hit the hardest by the rising cost of rent, utilities, and groceries. When someone says a dollar store doesn't feel like a dollar store anymore, it isn't just a complaint. It's a symptom of the economic pressure squeezing millions of Americans at once. In many regions, basic items now cost significantly more, making the idea of stretching $10 across a week feel impossible. Inside the stores, the stress is visible. Some locations operate with just one employee per shift, acting as cashier, stocker, cleaner, and security all in one. Shelves sit half-filled, lights flicker, and cardboard boxes pile up in the aisles. These aren't signs of corporate neglect, they are signs of a retail model pushed beyond its limits. Dollar General isn't collapsing entirely, but the closures reveal a deeper truth: the communities that depended on it the most are the very places where it can no longer survive. Number 1, Big Lots. And here we are at number 1. The clearest, most heartbreaking signal that the retail landscape of America has changed forever. For decades, Big Lots was the quiet sanctuary of budget-minded households. It was the place where a living room makeover didn't require a second mortgage. You went there for the treasure hunt: a 50% off sofa, a cheap rug for the hallway, a few small comforts that made a house feel like a home without draining a paycheck. But in 2026, that image has shattered. The chain that once survived by helping families stretch every dollar is now the face of the retail apocalypse. In 2024 alone, Big Lots shuttered more than 500 stores, a closure wave so large it became one of the biggest retail wipeouts of the year. Following that, the company filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy and announced plans to liquidate the remainder of its nationwide footprint. For a chain built on discount shopping, the irony is hard to miss. Big Lots didn't collapse because people stopped wanting cheap goods. It collapsed because even the cheapest goods became too expensive for the customers who depended on them the most. As rents, insurance, utilities, and shipping costs soared, Big Lots found itself trapped between rising expenses and declining demand. Shoppers who once filled carts with furniture and seasonal decor now pick up only bare essentials: paper towels, snacks, maybe a single household item if the price feels manageable. Inflation didn't just squeeze profits, it squeezed the joy out of the small purchases that once made this store feel like a destination. In dozens of communities, the closures feel personal. Older residents talk about wandering aisles where staff knew their names. Employees describe the gut punch of showing up one morning to find store closing banners draped across the windows. And landlords in smaller towns quietly admit that once Big Lots leaves, it may take years before anyone else can fill a space that large. What is disappearing isn't simply a discount chain. It's a lifeline for middle-income and fixed-income Americans who already feel the rising cost of everyday life. As Big Lots fades from the retail map, a deeper question emerges: if even the discount stores can't survive this economy, what happens to the families who relied on them? The shifts we have analyzed across these 10 brands, from the burger joints of our childhood to the discount stores that kept our budgets afloat, are more than isolated business struggles. They are signs of a deeper transformation shaping everyday American life. Rising costs, shrinking margins, and the rapid pace of digital dependence have created the conditions for a retail apocalypse where even the most familiar brands are forced to retreat or reinvent themselves. Communities feel the impact first. We are facing longer drives for essentials, fewer late-night options, and entire plazas going dark as U.S. store closures accelerate. This isn't just about losing a place to buy a burger or a sofa. It's about the erosion of the third place, the spots outside of work and home where life happened. As these lights go out, the fabric of our neighborhoods changes. Yet, within this disruption, there is a lesson. The era of limitless convenience and cheap consumption is ending. We are entering a time where we must pay closer attention to where our money goes and support the local businesses that remain. The question now becomes personal: how close will the next closure come to your own neighborhood? If this breakdown helped you see the bigger picture, if it validated the changes you see on your own main street, hit that subscribe button for US Reality Check. We are committed to digging past the headlines to bring you the economic truths that matter. The landscape is changing. Don't be left in the dark. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next Reality Check.